All right, are we live? Hey, we are live. What's going on, gentlemen? Today is Tuesday, November 25th. We got the legacy landscape view going. What a throwback this is, eh? Well, today we will be discussing, as you see in the title, why guys freeze up. I used to be one of them when they are flirting with girls and how to fix that. So the topic came up. I was feeling quite overwhelmed today, realizing, well, I was looking into making a landing page, setting up funnels and all of this email marketing. And I realized just how much I still don't know. So I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. And that's what sparked the topic, was just realizing how much I still need to learn. Then I started thinking about why I feel overwhelmed. And I realized that it has a lot to do with the same reason guys typically feel overwhelmed when it comes to flirting with girls, specifically in cold approach in the beginning when they're first learning how to cold approach. And so, if you don't know who I am, my name's Ephraim. I'm 25 years old. I'm from the Bay Area, and I have a background in software. I used to be a software engineer. Then I was in software sales, and career was going well, but I felt as though I had a deeper mission. And I realized once I learned this skill set just how many guys are struggling out there, because I used to think that I was part of the minority and most guys that looked like me or just about had the same metrics on paper as me, I thought they were doing super well with girls. And I thought that I was the odd man out because I was going months at a time without getting dates, spending hours a day swiping on dating apps, and not much was coming from that. And so I actually, in 2023, I reached out to somebody for coaching and spent the next handful of days, weeks, months learning this skill set of daytime cold approach. Now I'm quite good at it. You can see my infields for proof. Got a whole playlist titled that. But yeah, these days, what do? I left that tech sales, tech career behind to help other guys who are struggling in this area, take them from where I used to be, which was going months at a time without dates, to being able to attract hotter women into their lives without having to change their personality. And I think that part's pretty key because I classify myself as an introvert. I'm pretty soft spoken, as you can see. I don't like loud environments. And so I never flourish in clubs, booming music. They're playing reggaeton. I'm going, oh my God, how am I supposed to chat to a girl right now? I got to scream over the music. I don't like going out and getting drunk, at least not that often, especially not when it means I'm trying to get a date too. So, yeah, I found a different route, and I've really critiqued this route to a point where it's very, very effective. So if you go through my content, you'll see just how effective this skill set can be at lining up dates when you do it properly, when you learn it properly. And so I coach other guys through how to do this exact thing. And you've seen it on my channel. If you're new, you can see some of my clients on my channel as well and how far they've gone with the skill set. So, anyways, if at any point during the stream you would like to learn a bit more about that and see if we'd be a good fit to work together so I could actually coach you through the skill set, then you can click the first link in the description below and schedule an application call with me. So, on to the topic. Feeling overwhelmed is how I wanted to start off. So, just to go back a couple of years, I remember when I was first considering walking over to a girl in public and trying to flirt with her, just that idea made my heart skip a few beats because there's a few reasons why. Because first, I didn't think she'd respond well to me. I was deeply entrenched in this red pill rabbit hole, thinking that I needed to be taller than I am, needed to make more money than I did, even though I was doing pretty well for myself back then, working a six-figure remote programming job. I thought I needed more money. I thought I needed more muscle. Yeah. This whole looks maxing frenzy that's going on the internet. Guys are being misguided and they're being taught that they need to max out all their attributes before they ever take a chance and walk over to a girl that they like. And the reason why they do this, same reason why I used to follow it as well, is they think that they're mitigating risk by doing so. They think that by maxing out all of these attributes, it means that they're going to somehow be one of the only guys in the world that can like avoid rejection, that can like sidestep the girl not being interested in them. And they think, well, if I look super pretty, if I have all the muscles and all the money in the world, she can't possibly say no to me, right? And they're skirting around a bigger issue here, which is typically the reason why they're not getting results with girls. Certainly was the reason why I wasn't, because I looked the same as I do now back in 2023 when I was going months at a time without having dates. So the real reason, the real issue here is they're afraid, and they think that they can compensate for their fear with maxing out all of these external metrics. So maybe if I do my hair a certain way, maybe if I add a few pounds of muscle to my frame, then all of a sudden I won't have to do the inner work that it takes to get over this fear of rejection, fear of people watching me, fear of people listening into my conversations, fear of people perceiving that I'm flirting with a girl because for some reason they think that this is a shameful activity. And so they try to use these external methods to get around this inevitable part of the process, which is being rejected. So, why do we freeze up in these conversations? So, if you're watching this and you've already tried approaching or you've considered it in the past, then it's likely that if you have walked over, it's likely that it went pretty similar to how my first few approaches went. So, I remember back in 2023, I was in Warsaw and I was so scared. And I had Christian, the guy who was coaching me, by my side, and he was telling me, "All right, just go in for your first one. Say this, do this." And I remember I was like physically sweating and shaking just at the thought of me walking over and doing this. I thought that it was illegal. I thought there's no way that I can walk over and assert my desire, share what I want in this direct of a manner. I thought, up until that point, I was just using dating apps. Yeah, and every now and then I worked up the courage to hit on a coworker back then. So I was one of these people that was very fearful while in this conversation. And it all leads back to incompetence is really like the pillar of this live stream. So when we feel calm, comfortable, and confident, it's usually in an environment that we're used to. It's usually doing something that we already know how to do. So if you have a background in sports, let's say you played soccer growing up and you practice for hours and days at a time, then when it's showtime, yeah, when you step on the field and it's time to perform, yeah, you're going to feel the nerves, but especially if this is your 10th game, your 20th, 30th game, you don't feel as jittery anymore because you've been there before. But the problem is most guys, at least in my experience, haven't been here before. They've not been in front of a girl in this context before. And it's funny because a lot of my clients, they have it all on paper. Yeah, they look good already. Yeah, they've got a nice physique already. They always have a stellar career. It's so funny. The guys that reach out to me, they always have some sort of a background in tech. Yeah, I got a few clients that are data analysts, engineers. I got people that reached out to me that are attorneys. And so you think like, okay, just looking at this guy on paper, why would he have problems getting dates? Why would he have problems walking over to a girl? Yeah, it's like he's this big hotshot in his company and he's scared of her over there. And it comes down to this feeling of incompetence. It's because we've not been put in that position before, or we've not put ourselves in that position before. And so we just don't know what to do. And this is why, me personally, I just didn't waste any time trying to figure out what to do on my own. This is why I just paid for coaching. Yeah, this is why I just reached out to somebody who already looked sick on camera, walking over to girls, getting rejected, brushing it off. And I went, I bet I could learn something from that guy. So if we break down incompetence, it comes down to a few different factors, right? So one is a lack of self-belief. So in these other environments, let's use some fictitious character named Jeremy. I always default to Jeremy. Yeah, let's use Jeremy for example. So Jeremy, the software engineer, he's got this stellar career. He's got all the accolades. Got a master's degree in computer science, and he has no problem communicating to girls. Let's say when he's at work, talking about programs, talking about if statements and for loops and all of this stuff that goes into engineering. He's got no problem going over a Jira document, Jira tickets with his team that happen to be, maybe there are a couple girl engineers on his team. He's got no problem talking to a girl in that context. Yet, if you pull him out of the area that he's comfortable in and you put him in an uncomfortable environment, like trying to walk over to a stranger that doesn't know that he's this hotshot engineer, then all of a sudden it becomes a lot harder, or at least mentally for him, it becomes a lot harder. And so he has self belief in an area that he's already comfortable in because he's competent. But when it comes to an area that he's not practiced, all of that self belief flies out the window. All of a sudden, he fumbles over his words. Let's say he does work up the courage to walk over to the girl, because most guys don't. If he does do it, then all of a sudden he's fumbling over his words. All of a sudden he sounds super unsure of himself. Yeah, we all know how this sounds when the guy's speaking very fast, when the guy has the super high pitched voice at the end of his sentences or just throughout the conversation in general. When the guy's very jittery and moving around a lot in the conversation. Honestly, sometimes I'm guilty of. Maybe I just like to move though, because I definitely am very comfortable in these conversations. And so that's one point, right? Is lacking self-belief. The next point that I wrote was not being comfortable flirting. So again, it's like on paper, the guy's got it all. Stellar career, looks good, good physique, doesn't have a problem communicating with women when it's platonic, right? That's the big asterisk there. When it's platonic, no problem communicating. But all of a sudden, when we want to gear it towards a flirty direction, the guy's got no idea how to operate anymore. And again, this comes back to this overarching theme of incompetence. Because if we've not been put in that position very often, then it's likely that we're just not going to know what to do, what to say, how to operate, and, how to lead the conversation, etc. And this is the position that I was in and all of my clients were in before working with me. Yeah, and so especially in 2025, hold on, let me take a sip of the coffee. Why am I drinking coffee at 4:50 p.m.? Don't ask me. So yeah, especially I always lose my train of thought, but so anyways, most of my clients, including me before learning the skill set, are in this position. And it's just the better I get at the skill and the more guys I coach, the more ridiculous it sounds, but I get it, obviously, because I'm helping them through it. And I used to be there as well, which is like, think about it for a second. Yeah, if you're a guy that I'm talking to in my content, my videos, my streams, then you're a guy who, not just on paper, but in real life, you're already dateable. Girls would already like you if you just knew how to communicate what you've built yourself in to these women that you're attracted to. So a lot of guys are spending so much time behind the scenes putting in all this work. Now they've got an amazing career, or maybe they're building their own business even better. They got all this work in it at the gym. They got some 315 bench press, right? Well, I'm this scrawny kid over here barely benching anything. Got chicken legs, haven't done a leg day in who knows how long. And it's like, it's weird when you look over at me and it's like, okay, doesn't have a job, not super muscular, not Mr. Looks Max. I wear the same clothes all the time. Yeah. And then you pan over to my clients who reach out to me and it's like, wow, stellar career, makes all this money, more muscular than I am, better style than I do. Right. My most recent client showed up to New York City in this completely sick outfit. I was jealous. I was looking at the guy like, man, I wish I had your style. Right. But super, not necessarily scared, to his credit, to Rodney's credit. He wasn't scared to get in set, but just incompetent, just not knowing what to do when he was in front of the girl that he liked. And so it's like no amount of style, muscles, money, career accolades makes up for an incompetence in this area. It's kind of like training with, let's say it's like showing up to soccer practice every day hoping that you make it to the NBA, yeah, to the National Basketball Association. It doesn't really make sense, right? Training in the gym every day hoping that all of a sudden when you get in front of the girl, it's like the muscles are going to do the work for me. But guys are focused on the wrong thing here. Not to say that going to the gym is bad, right? I'm actively working out. But if going to if a guy's going to the gym thinking that that is going to all of a sudden make the girls like sprint at him and drop their panties, he's just focused on the wrong area, and it's unfortunate. So yeah, not comfortable flirting. So the guy's comfortable chatting to girls in pretty much every other context. But then when it comes time to taper the conversation down to something flirty, he just doesn't know how to operate. And it's not his fault, right? I always say this, especially to my clients. It's not your fault. It wasn't my fault I didn't know what the fuck to do. It wasn't my fault I spent the first 22 years of my life essentially a loser. Yeah, it's funny, invited to parties in high school, right? All these parties, part of the cool group, all this stuff. But then when it came down to romance, had nothing to show for it. And I don't blame myself, just like I don't blame my clients, because nobody shared with us what to do in this area of our life. We had classes for biology, we had classes for statistics, we had classes for US history if you're from the United States. And so they're making us essentially experts, or at least proficient in all of these different fields. But there was no class on how to believe in yourself when you're in front of a girl that you're attracted to, how to communicate what you want directly, how to line up a date for yourself. I mean, and obviously, I wouldn't expect a public school system to teach any of this stuff, but that's where my content comes in. That's why I make content, right? So let's get back on track. The next thing that is a part of this branch of incompetence is feeling ashamed, right? So if we remember the topic is, why do guys freeze up in conversations? And I don't just mean guys as in every guy. I mean guys as in the guys that I'm specifically talking to, the guys that I work with. It makes sense why the no life Minecraft dweller who just smokes weed all day and does nothing with his life, it makes sense why that guy freezes up. Yeah, it's because he has nothing going for him. He probably feels like an imposter in front of these women, anyways. But it doesn't make sense why a guy who otherwise, all things considered, would be an amazing partner for a lot of these women that he's attracted to. It makes no sense why that guy is going days, weeks, months at a time without a date, without getting laid, without having this area of his life satiated. Yeah, like Ian, for example, my client Ian. Before working with me, the guy was on a 4-year dry streak. But again, on paper, it doesn't make sense why. Yeah, the guy had everything going for him. He's got a master's degree. He's got a stellar career. Yeah, the guy's taller than I am. The guy's got great style, great social skills, has taken an improv class. Why the hell is that guy on a 4-year dry streak? It just comes down to incompetence. It's because he had what's the word? Optimized. He had optimized all of the auxiliary areas of life, hoping that if he was able to do that, it would compensate for the very thing that actually moves the needle when it comes to getting dates, lining up dates for yourself, getting a girlfriend. The thing that actually moves the needle, which is the self-belief portion, which is just repping this out until you actually believe that you're the shit, which is actually believing that you can show these women a good time, which is being comfortable enough in conversation to allow your true personality to come out, rather than all of these memorized lines that you read from the London Day Game model playbook, or that you watch from these creators who tell you need to say certain things, you need to behave in a certain way, nag, nag, nag. You need to intentionally insult the girl because all of a sudden she'll see you as more valuable in her eyes. And it's like all of this stuff is clouding their vision. Not to say that Ian was following this silly content. Potentially at one point he was, I'm not sure. But at least for me, I definitely was entrenched in that shit, right? Thinking that if I just maximized all the other areas, I could avoid the very thing that actually moves the needle, which is learning how to look rejection in the face and go, I don't care. You just don't phase me anymore. I can take it. I can take the psychological gut punch, because I know that just because this girl's not interested doesn't mean that she's not. Or what about her? Or what about the girl 10 feet down the road? What about her? Just because she's not interested doesn't mean nobody is. Yeah. So I don't even know if I touched on this topic yet, but again, incompetence, another branch here, is this feeling of shame, feeling ashamed of what we're doing here. And this goes deeper than cold approach. I used to think that it's just cold approach. I used to think guys were just ashamed of cold approach because it's so socially unorthodox, because not many people are doing it, because a lot of people are going to see them and hear them, blah, blah, blah. But the more clients that I work with and I teach this skill set to, the more I'm realizing that it's shame of flirting overall. And maybe this comes down to the religion that you were raised as. Maybe this comes down to how conservative your family or your schoolmates or the school itself was. But the point is, there seems to be this societal shame going on around dating, flirting, being assertive, being direct, showing your intentions. And so another part of this incompetence branch is this feeling of shame. Yeah. And so guys don't know how to handle this feeling of shame and eradicate it essentially. So I've eradicated thinking that it's shameful to walk over to a girl and chat her up. And then to take it a step back, to flirt with a girl in general. I've just eradicated that fear of thinking it's shameful to do that. And I know exactly where it comes from, at least for me, at least for Ian and a lot of my clients. Yeah, we grow up, we go to school, we have a crush. Our friends are making jokes at us. Our friends are poking us in the stomach, going, "Oh, you like her? Oh, this and that. She's not even that cute. She wouldn't like you back. Oh, I heard you tried to shoot your shot and she rejected you. Oh, I guess you can't get girls, Ephraim." And so it's like this starts to reinforce this feeling of shame. Oh, if I show direct intent, if I show romantic desire, then what I'm faced with is ridicule, and it makes us shy away from ever wanting to do it. But it's crazy because guys still do it. They just do it in the most roundabout way now. They just hide behind a screen and they open up Tinder and they swipe, swipe, swipe away. And they wonder why they get no results. And the few results that they do get, right? Back when I was swiping on apps, every now and then I'd get a match, and usually the girl was not up to my standard. Back then, it was certainly my standard because I was a pussy. But nowadays, a lot of the girls I would look at their profile if I was presented now and go, "What was I thinking?" Yeah, it's like I've been in front of enough girls now that I used to think were out of my league, that I've recognized all I was missing this entire time was ability, was competence, was calmness, stuff that we're going to get into pretty shortly. Okay. One more sip of the coffee. Hold on. What's the mug say, boys? Yeah, this is random. I think this is, I don't know. I don't know where I got this mug. So, look, so let's recap what we've gone over and then let's start talking about the fix. Okay. So, why do guys freeze up when it comes to flirting with girls that they're attracted to? Well, the main reason, essentially the only reason, is incompetence. They just don't know how to communicate all of the accolades that they've accumulated up until this point in their life to the girl effectively. And this doesn't mean walking over to the girl and going, "Hey, I graduated with this degree. I'm this tall. I have this many friends." Like it's not like literally telling the girl everything that's cool about you, but it's being able to convey the quirks about you, the hobbies about you, the things that you've done that you're proud of to the girl, being able to convey it in an effective and repeatable way. And this is where my system comes into play that I've developed. I've developed it for over 2.5 years at this point, going on 3 years. You've seen it. If you follow the content, you've seen it in action on the channel. You've seen it in action by my clients now. So how do we unfreeze? Antifreeze. How do we unfreeze in these conversations? Not even just cold approach, but just flirting in general. You're chatting to a girl, let's say at the supermarket. She's given you some eye contact a few times, and you could feel it. Yeah, you could feel the tension there. How do we go about breaking the ice though? We're so scared of what could happen. We're always so focused on worst case scenario. Well, the way to unfreeze is to, drum roll, become competent. And I'm going to explain exactly how to become competent by putting yourself on the extreme end of the spectrum when it comes to your fear, because then everything in between will become a piece of cake in comparison. Yeah. So the first way to unfreeze yourself in these conversations is recognize, or I guess develop the mentality that flirting is just a skill. Now, I can't say to every human it's just a skill, but to me, this analytically brained prior programmer type of archetype, and to a lot of my clients and viewers that I attract, this way of looking at flirting it's very effective. Yeah, just seeing it as a skill. So I've made tons of videos, and I'll continue to make videos where I break down the fundamentals of what I'm doing in the infields themselves. And actually, I should go into some of this now because it's been a while. I've posted probably 40 live infields on my channel since I've done a live stream kind of like this on this topic, right? So when you're going over my content, what you're seeing me do is are things that I've done hundreds, thousands of times, so that now when the viewer comes across my channel and sees it, it appears effortless, it appears seamless, smooth, natural, all these adjectives. But in reality, there is a point where everything that you're seeing looked choppy, awkward, weird, quiet, unsure, jittery, just an abomination. So there was a point where, especially in the beginning when I was learning the skill set, where when I walked over to a girl, it was very rare that she would stop for me. And so and let's take one step back. Okay, let's take one step back. So mentality, this is a skill set. You can build a skill set in dating, in approaching, in flirting, just like you can build a skill set in playing chess, how to become a grandmaster in chess. That's a skill set. This is a skill set. It's just different, obviously different genre of skill. The first thing I should have started with is there's a difference between my approach and then another guy watching my approach and then trying to imitate it. All right. So there's a world of a difference there. So a lot of the times my clients that reach out to me that I end up working with, they tell me that they've tried cold approach before. And we dive into that and I go, yeah, but what does that mean though? Yeah, like walk me through what that means, because that's like saying, oh, I've tried basketball before, but for some reason I still can't shoot like Steph Curry. What's going on? I've shot a basketball before. Why is it not going in every time? Okay, so oftentimes, let's use Ian. Ian's a great example of this. He had done 600 approaches before working with me. And he mentions that he was watching my content, watching my infields and imitating them. And so that first call that Ian and I had, I go, okay, so what's your approach look like? You say it's similar to mine. Let's break it down. So how long does it take you to see the girl and then actually walk over? And that was the first difference. Yeah. Secondly, I'm like, okay, but when you stop the girl, are you like right in front of her, or usually like to the side of her, like you're panhandling, like you're a Jehovah's Witness trying to recruit her into a cult? That was the second big difference. Thirdly, I was going, okay, let's talk about volume. Are you loud? Are you loud enough for everyone in the direct vicinity to hear you? Is it very clear what you're doing to everybody? Or is it a bit tepid? Is it a bit watered down? Are you a bit quiet when you're walking over? So these are just quick examples to share that the approach that you see on a screen versus you trying to imitate that approach based on what you see could be worlds apart. So when Ian told me he did 600 approaches, once we went through what those actually looked like, in my mind, he had done 0 approaches. Now, not literally, right? Because he had gotten over his fear 600 times. He'd gotten rejected X times out of the 600 times. So he was making progress in these approaches. But as far as like how many approaches has he done that are equivalent to the ones that I've done, it was 0, because there was a world of difference between what I do and what he was doing back then. And it's no wonder why he was getting no results. It's no wonder why he did all of those approaches and had a handful of dates to show for him and still was on that 4-year dry streak. Yeah. So, okay. So that was the preface, is just remember that obviously I'm trying to help guys through this skill set in as many ways as possible. So the most direct way that I can help them is if I actually meet them in person. I mic them up. I bought a new camera that zooms now, so I mic them up so I can hear them. We can also zoom in on their conversations and see how they look in these conversations, and then I can critique them in real time after each conversation. That's the easiest way that I can help guys. If, by the way, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can click the link below and schedule an application call with me. The second way, though, the more broad way that I try to help guys is I just make demonstration content of what I can do in hopes that it spurs guys into action and inspires them to, at the very least, try it. But, and this is funny, Rodney Roddy mentioned this on the last day of his immersion. You'll see some of these videos rolling out, but he mentioned this. He goes, I get what you mean now, Ephraim, when you say that you can give away all of this content for free. You can make all of these infields showing exactly what you're doing, breaking down exactly what you're doing, why you're saying what you're saying. And it's still a world of a difference between actually working with me in person. And the reason why it clicked for him is because, well, exactly what I'm describing now, because it's a lot harder to watch Steph Curry shoot the basketball and then pick up a basketball and shoot yourself and get the same results as him. It's a lot harder to do that than to pay Steph Curry to actually coach you, right? Now, let me humble myself. I'm not calling myself Steph Curry by any means, but you've seen what I can do on the channel, right? So this is why I have no problem going into extreme detail about everything that I do, how I do it, why I do it, how I think about it, which is the most important part, because I know that for most guys, they won't even try it. And so, this is just entertainment to them. But the guys that do try it, they're going to run into a similar roadblock to Ian, which is they're probably going to do loads of approaches. And for guys that are just somehow adaptable, then maybe they will figure it out, right? Maybe they'll be able to get their cousin or their friend to film them and go, okay, I'm trying to learn how to cold approach. I'm going to use this guy's content, try to use it, squeeze all the value I can get, and then do it myself. Fair play. Yeah, I wasn't able to do that, unfortunately. I personally, I couldn't build this skill set on my own. So I'm very aware that most guys will run into the same roadblock that Ian did, which is the guy was following along my content for, I think he said 6 months before he reached out, doing all of these approaches, and just trying to figure out, like, why can't I yield the same results as Ephraim? And of course, the default answer in his mind always came back to the red pill stuff, just like it did for me, just like it does for most guys. He went, oh, it must be because Ephraim looks like this and I look like this. Oh, it must be because Ephraim is slightly more muscular than me and I'm a bit skinnier. Yeah, and I emphasize the word slightly, man. I'm pretty scrawny myself. Oh, it must be because Ephraim is some natural extroverted gifted guy and I'm more introverted and I've been through more trauma in my life and blah blah blah. And it would always default back to these answers. And then the more he entrenched himself in my content, the more he came to realize that this is simply a skill set. And so you need to practice the skill set correctly in order to make or generate similar results to the person that you're seeing do it online, right? Okay, so I've harped on this enough. So to summarize, the first fix, how do we get unfrozen in conversation, is firstly, you adopt the mentality that walking over to a girl, giving her a compliment, flirting with her, and asking her on a date, that sequence there that I teach is a skill set. And there's a million skill sets that go into it, but you can look at it as one conglomerate of skill sets, the skill of cold approach. All right. So the mentality shift is play your cards. Who cares the hand that you were dealt? Some guys are going to have it easier. Some guys were born 6'4", gorgeous, have NFL athlete style genetics. And so, yeah, I imagine it's going to be a slightly easier road for that guy because maybe more of the girls that he walks over to will be interested right off the bat than, let's say, a guy who's 5'6", balding, ugly, fat. Obviously, I'm using extreme ends of the spectrum here, right? But my point, my whole channel really is just to play your hand, right? I tell guys all the time I'm below average height. I'm 5'9", so you can't use that as an excuse anymore, right? Not the most muscular guy, certainly not the richest at all. So the whole mission has been to break down these perceived barriers that guys have until they recognize. It's a little dark, huh? Do I need more light? Can you boys see me? I know I'm a little dark. Is that better? We'll go with that first for now. So, God, I always knock myself off of the thoughts. Okay, well, you know what? Let's go back. So the first fix is to adopt the mentality that this is a skill set just like everything else. And if it's a skill set, then you can improve. And there's a chance that your starting point is further back than my starting point. There's a chance that you're going to have to do way more approaches than I had to do to get your first date. There is a chance. But the point is, we play our hand because our alternative is to give up or to go swipe on dating apps, which is essentially giving up because probably not getting the results you want there, or else you wouldn't be looking up content like this, would you? So yeah, just look at it as binary, right? This is a skill set that you choose to build or you don't build. That's the first step to unfreezing. Okay, so the second step is to rep it out until it becomes comfortable. So my first 10, 30, 50 approaches were not, I didn't feel comfortable. 150 approaches, I didn't feel comfortable. I felt nervous as shit. I thought that I was going to piss my pants. I was violently shaking. Now, the good news is there was a nice progression that happened where if you looked at my first approach and you looked at my 150th approach, they looked completely different because I was improving with each approach. But I didn't feel necessarily completely different as far as comfort, as far as walking over without any fear, any hesitation. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in 150 approaches. I still felt some resistance to walking over to the girl during that initial phase of learning how to do that. So the second step is you need to rep it out until it becomes comfortable. So ideally, you've been coached and you have proper technique to rep out because then that'll help you exponentially. But even if you're a guy that's trying to figure this out on his own, that's okay. But you do need to put in a lot of reps. So this is a big issue for a lot of guys is they think that they can just like hop into the field and their first 10 approaches, they're going to find the love of their life and ride off into the sunset. And it's like, the problem is they're still incompetent in this area. Yeah. And it's not just the technique of how to stop the girl, but it's usually like how to be very clear and direct, how to disarm her when you are stopping her, right? Make her realize you're not some threatening figure and you're not there to sell her anything either. You're there to flirt. How to actually go about the flirting, right? How to not be scared of making eye contact, even though you think she's a lot hotter than you can attract right now. Yeah, how to not metaphorically, or I guess how to not verbally bow your head and take a knee whenever she makes an opinion that you don't agree with, and how to be less agreeable when it makes sense to. How to ask for what you want. There's so many sub skills that goes into this, which again, if you just want my help, click the link in the description. I can help you with all this stuff. We can get it sorted in a handful of days rather than you figuring it out on your own. But again, for the guy who's trying to figure it out, you need to rep this out until it becomes comfortable. And this isn't just unique to guys building this on their own. This is for the guys that I coach as well. So the reason why having me by your side becomes so valuable is because now you've got somebody right next to you to hold you accountable. And if you couldn't tell by this point in my channel, if you've watched my content for a while, I'm a pretty no bullshit person, specifically when it comes to this skill set. So I've heard it all. Yeah, I've had enough clients at this point where I've heard the excuses. I've heard, I didn't see her. Which girl, Ephraim? Even though I'm pointing directly at her. I've heard, but she's too far right now, this and that. So when I'm working with my clients, there is a balance, but a lot of the time I am just calling them out on their bullshit and just telling them to go over anyway. Just trust your legs, man. Just walk over, give yourself a chance. Because oftentimes I see in them what they don't see in them. When I look at my clients, I see a guy who is already dateable. I see a guy who these women that he's attracted to would like already as is. I just see that he's incompetent right now. That's it. That's all. He's already dateable. Every other area of his life he's checked off except this area. And so my job is to get my client as competent as possible, as fast as possible. And the way that I've figured out how to do that is by being right next to you and literally pushing you into conversation if it comes to that point and going, hey, did you like her? Yeah, you did. Go and chat to her. Just go and give yourself a chance. Because I already know that if he does that once, twice, 10, 30, 50, 100 times while we're together, then by the time he's back home on his own and he comes across another opportunity, he's going to be much more likely to pull the trigger. And of course, this goes into the accountability that happens after my coaching as well. I put my guys all into a group chat, all the guys that I've coached, few that I have not even coached yet, but that are looking to get coached by me in the future. And me and my clients hold everybody accountable in that group so that nobody slides back to like that comfort zone. seeing the girl and going, yeah, but she's too far. Yeah, but she's too pretty. Yeah, but yeah. All this can be true. Just give yourself a chance, though. So back to the point, rep it out until it becomes comfortable, just like any skill set, just like the piano player. You do the you play the recital so many times, you can do it with your eyes closed without looking at your fingers. It just becomes natural, you become more comfortable. And this is a big piece, by the way, because a lot of the reasons why guys that are already dateable struggle to get dates and find results just in general, especially with cold approach, is because they're uncomfortable in the situation still, because they've not put in enough reps yet. And so when they're trying to communicate all of these cool things about themselves to the girl that they like, it's coming off completely wrong. They're this is a big problem for Rodney early on. They're just firing away like a machine gun at the girl, chatting away. So it's like on one hand, he's showing that he's got no problem coming up with what to say, but on the other hand, he's showing that he doesn't know how to shut up and let her speak. Yeah, and so, like, we gotta find the balance there. How do you find the balance? Rep it out. Rep it out. In Rodney's case, he had me listening in. So instead of doing that 20 times and then realizing, "Oh, I should probably slow down," after the first time he was doing that, I go, "You need to slow down, mate. Next approach, slow down." And so we're course correcting over time, little by little. We're changing what needs to be changed until he can get results similar to what Ian can get, to what I can get, to the infields that you see on my channel. It's a skill set, right? Like I got to remind guys, there was a point not too long ago where I couldn't get results with this skill set. In fact, I had never approached a girl in my life. So again, guys can point to looks, they can point to extroversion or whatever they want to use as an excuse. But the reality is, I just viewed it exactly how I'm sharing it to you right now. I just viewed it as a skill. And if it's a skill, then I can improve, even if it sucks, even if it hurts, even if it means I have to get rejected, which goes right into my next point. All right. So the last point, rep it out until it becomes comfortable, until you become comfortable enough in set where you can pull your actual personality out when chatting to the girl. You know, that personality when you're talking to your brother or your dad or your best friend. Yeah, that vibrant personality where you can crack jokes and you don't have much writing on the conversation and you can have fun. You know, you go out for pints and you can have fun in the conversation. That person there, you can bring him into these conversations eventually. He's there, right? You're chatting to somebody where you don't want to take them out on a date. You have no problem showing who you are. But all of a sudden, when you feel as though there's a lot riding on the conversation, that changes. Then your pace of speech, your rate of speech increases. You sound unsure of yourself all of the time. You sound like you're ashamed of what you're doing. All right, so the next way to unfreeze yourself in the conversation, this one's big. Not enough guys listen to this one. You have to accept rejection. You just have to accept it. I've yet to come across a guy, a creator, anybody who never, ever gets rejected. And especially the way that I teach this skill set, you certainly will get rejected. And a lot of guys think that that means that this is a less effective way of getting dates. But in my opinion, it's a way more effective way of getting dates, because the way that I teach this is so polarizing that it puts the girl into a box immediately. Therefore, you're not wasting time. So, you know, to put this on a scale, you could be a more indirect guy, walk over, ask for directions, talk about how her outfit, try to lead this into something, and then 7 minutes into the conversation, find out that she's engaged. Or you could be like Ephraim and go, "Excuse me, you're fucking hot. Hi, you look so good. What's up?" And then she'll go, "Oh, thank you, but I'm engaged." And that took me all of 15 seconds to find out. Yeah. And so while the indirect guy is on minute number 6 of trying to chat up the girl in a roundabout way, I've already approached 3 others and found my date for next Saturday. So the way that I teach this is you must accept rejection and learn to embrace it, because this is it's actually kind of a win-win if you think about it. Right. So, you know, the lose in a lot of guys' eyes is, well, I'm being rejected. It's going to be a hit to my ego. I see that as a benefit. Why do we want a big bulky ego anyways? Why do we want to take ourselves more seriously than we should anyways? Why do we want to pretend to show, you know, why do we want to try to create this fake persona to show to the world about how perfect we are and how we never get rejected anyways. In my opinion, the more manly way to go about this is just to accept that some girls simply aren't going to like you and just suck it up. Is what it is. Yeah, it's the same thing as all of those girls that guys are swiping on dating apps, swiping left on them. It's the same thing. They're still getting rejected. It's just one feels worse because it's in real life, because other people and other strangers can hear and see what's going on. And I've got another point after this that goes into that, but let's hang on this for a bit. Yeah. What's so bad about rejection anyways? I mean, genuinely, like I got so much content lined up that I need to go through, but I will get to a point where I'm going to compile all of these London rejections that I got into. I could probably make 3-4 separate 30-minute rejection compilations off of those clips alone. And that's me, the guy that you've seen get results with the skill set. If you're an OG and you saw the date breakdowns back when I used to make those, you've seen dozens of them, right? So the same guy that's able to get all of these dates lined up, have all of these experiences through this skill set, is telling you that I get rejected all the fucking time. And who cares? Not every girl's going to like you. That's okay. But the way that I teach you this skill set is to just filter through that very quickly. So this is what I mean by going to the extreme end of the spectrum. Yeah. And then everything in between becomes easier in comparison, rather than, hi, I like your outfit. Yeah. So, like, are you from around here? What's your name? Cool. Yeah. Well, I like your eye color. It's green. Nice. Yeah. And then like 5 minutes later, the girl goes, wait, are you hitting on me? Yeah, I mean, well, I don't, if you want to call it that, I don't know if, I was just seeing if maybe we vibe. And then the girl goes, oh, I have a boyfriend. And you've just wasted 5 minutes of your day. Just ask Ian, mate. This was, thankfully Ian was never somebody that was going in super indirect. But just ask Rodney. Eventually, if you get to see Rodney's content or meet Rodney if you join the group, just ask him the difference. Yeah, because this was a big hang up for Rodney during his immersion. Is he was so focused on, how do I save face? How do I make my image that I want to portray to the world? How do I make that image as picture perfect as possible? And so in his mind, going more indirect meant a less severe rejection, which meant that all the strangers who didn't give a fuck about him anyways would somehow think that he's cooler if they ever happened to see him again or whatever. Or the girl, right? That was a big one for him. He thought that if he went indirect and then like sneakily found out that the girl was already taken, whew, oh my God, thank God I didn't compliment her or, give her a direct compliment and flirt with her, because then I would have been rejected in that. And it's like, bro, you still got fucking rejected, if you want to call it that. If the goal of this skill set is line up date, then we need to do what gets us to that point as effectively as possible. And so the way that I've developed this skill set, and now the way that I teach my clients how to do this, it's the most effective way that I've figured out. And I'm going to continue to iterate. This is my fucking life at this point. Yeah, I'm going to continue to improve on it. But it's the most effective way that I've found on how to go from stranger to date like that. Yeah, the most roundabout way that I can think about is the way that I used to do it, which is, I see, back when I was in high school, I would see a girl that I liked in math class, and I would spend the next 7 months indirectly Snapchatting her, trying to keep our snap streak going, in hopes that maybe she would eventually like me if she saw me frequently enough on her phone. Just to find out that she was never interested in the first place. There goes 7 months of my life. What the fuck was I doing? Yeah, so it's like on that end of the spectrum, right? Somewhere in between there is the dating app route, which is not a very effective way of going about this, right? Again, unless you got it all on paper, unless you're Mr. 6'5", you look like Kelly Oubre Jr., and you're jacked out of your mind, and you got pictures on yachts and shit, unless you're that guy, then that's not the most effective way to line up dates. All right, Ephraim's going on another tangent again. So to bring us back, let's reel it in. We have to accept that rejection simply is part of the process. Now, I should make another line in the sand here, because on one hand, you're a guy that's not been coached, so you're going about this skill in a way that's completely different than I teach it. Even though you're watching my infield and you're trying to imitate what I do, it comes off completely differently because you just don't know what you don't know, because you can't hear yourself in these conversations and then compare it to how I sound, because you can't see yourself walking over and then compare it to how I walk over. You're just going off of memory, which fades pretty quickly anyways. So the line in the sand here is, if you're a guy who, like Ian, has gone in for, firstly, the preface is you're already dateable, right? You look decent shape, solid career or goals, or in the process of ironing that out. Yeah, decent social skills. If you're a guy that should already have a girlfriend just on paper, then if you've gone in for a whole bunch of approaches and you're not making any progress, then this bullet point becomes a little more difficult to stomach, right? The accept rejection. Because I don't think that if you're a guy that's dateable, you shouldn't be getting rejected every day in and day out, and never have any success. That's more of a skill issue. I had a client that's never been coached by me, but who reached out for virtual coaching. And I remember he was telling me that he got rejected like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in a row. And I just remember thinking, like, yeah, it's probably, looking at the guy, he looked good, he sounded good. So it wasn't a looks issue, it's a skill issue. It's because he was trying to imitate my approach, but he wasn't doing it very well, because there was so much to go over that I go over with my clients when I coach them in person privately, that he couldn't possibly figure out on his own. The same reason I started this live stream, right? I just felt so overwhelmed because I was looking into how to get more clients. And then I came across, you need to get a landing page. And then I tried looking up, okay, how do I make a landing page? And then they're talking about, now you need a logo. So then I go over to AI, how to figure out a logo. And I'm just, every time I go to a new thing, there's another thing I don't know and another thing I don't know. It's the same concept here, right? So, thankfully for me, in my case, if I wanted to, I could just delegate the task. I could just pay somebody to build all that for me, but not with dating. Unfortunately, we can't do that when it comes to dates. You can't pay me to approach for you, because I'm not going to show up on the date. You're going to show up on the date. The girl's not going to like that, is she? So guys need to figure this part out and iron this out and get over this fear of rejection, so that they can build this in the most effective way possible. So just a reminder, you could, in theory, try the most roundabout way, or a very roundabout way of like, hey, do you know where the nearest cafe is? You don't? Okay. Well, she's like, why don't you just fucking use Google Maps, guy? And you, yeah, I guess that's a good point. Well, really, I just wanted to come over because your earrings, I love how it's the crescent moon. It just looks so blah, blah, blah. And the girl's like, okay, thanks. Now you're having this chit chat conversation bullshit for 5 minutes, until finally it clicks in her mind, or maybe she already knew the whole time that you were trying to hit on her, and she's tired of it. And she goes, okay, anyways, I'm going to go now. And you're pissed off. And you're wondering, well, it doesn't feel like I got rejected because she didn't know I was hitting on her, but, I'm not getting any dates. That's the problem. Embrace the rejection. You should walk towards it, because behind each rejection is another opportunity to find a girl that does like you. That will come out. All right. So, yeah, I've spent 20 minutes talking about rejection alone. So there you go. That's the next point. All right. So number 4, remember, we're trying to fix how to stop freezing up in conversation, how to stop freezing up in any context when you're trying to chat to the girl romantically. The next fix is right off the back of this rejection concept, which is, earlier I said, what is rejection anyways? Like, what does it mean in the grand scheme of things? What does it actually mean? Right? Because a guy can say, the more you get rejected, the shittier the dating life you have. And then I'd raise my hand and I'd go, my whole life completely obliterates that argument. Yeah. The more I got rejected, the better my dating life got. Not because of I was getting rejected a whole bunch, but because I was approaching a whole bunch. And what do you know? I go 3, 4, 5 back-to-back girls not interested, in a rush, already taken. And then I meet the 6th girl and she comes out on the date. And it's like, that took me a whole 30 minutes to line up that date. And a lot of guys will spend 6 months trying to like hide and duck and avoid the one rejection that they're so afraid of, realizing that they got nowhere. Yeah, what took me 30 minutes took them 6 months to accomplish. So Why does rejection not matter in the grand scheme of things? Well, we're going to reintroduce one of my favorite phrases, floating rock mentality. It doesn't matter because not much matters anyways, because we're on a fucking floating rock spinning however 1,000 miles per hour and also rotating. What's the word? Ellipsing around the sun. And also asteroids are flying all around us. And also AI is taking over the fucking world. And also the world is super divided. And also who cares? Yeah, floating rock mentality when it comes to, how does this tie into cold approach? A lot of people are so scared of worst case scenario with this skill set. And they think that all the strangers are listening to them and watching them and judging them, right? This concept of the spotlight effect. They think that every girl they try to chat to, if they're not interested and they're like going home and like writing in their diary, this guy tried to hit on me today and I wasn't interested. This guy sucks and he's ugly and he shouldn't do this, right? It's like they keep thinking worst case scenario. They keep thinking, oh, if I walk over to the girl, all of a sudden all these armed guards are going to sprint at me and with machine guns pointed and go, hey, that's illegal. No, it's not. No, it's fucking not. Yeah. Actual worst case scenario is you walk over to a girl, you're honest about why you're walking over to her, and she rejects your advances. That's worst case scenario. And let's fabricate some more. Let's say that those strangers that witness that, let's say they do go home. Let's say that middle-aged guy who watched you get rejected goes home to his wife and kids and they're eating their pot roast and he goes, Susie, honey, I saw this guy, Ephraim. I don't know how you'd know my name. I saw this curly-haired fuck out in San Francisco. I saw him walk over to a girl today and yeah, she wasn't interested. So she just kept walking. It's like really play this out in your mind. One, is that even feasible? And two, who cares? Right? His wife's gonna go, okay, nice. Anyways, I had a shit day at work. Do you want to hear about my day? Like, nobody, genuinely, nobody cares. It's all in our head. We're working it up in our head. We're building it up. We're building this wall in our head to think, if I do this, then my public image is going to be ruined. If I shoot my shot, then all of a sudden everybody's going to know who I am. They're going to make a Reddit forum about me. They're going to say, this guy sucks. Avoid this guy at all costs. Nah. And if any of these worst case scenarios are true, just remember that we're on a floating rock. We're only going to be alive for probably, maximum of 80 more years if you're anywhere around my age. And that's, I mean, for me, I don't think I'm making it to 105. So I'll certainly be dead in 80 years. Do I really want to let the possible opinions of these strangers that don't care about me stop me from living the life that I want, breaking through the fears, going on the dates that I want? Do I really want that to stop me? My answer is no. I'd say everybody's answer is no, honestly, but it's just this fear of raising your hand. Yeah, this fear of putting your head above water and doing what most people won't do. But then you look at the guy who's living the dating life that most people will never have, and you wonder how we got here. It's by doing what most people won't do. It's by embracing the fact that some people won't like me, and that's just okay. Floating rock mentality. I've just accepted that I'm going to die, you're going to die, everybody watching, as well as every stranger that ever witnessed me get rejected is going to certainly be dead in like 80 years. Yeah, unless they figure out how to reverse human aging. And if not, then like, come on. Even if they did, do we think that Susie who watched you get rejected is going to still be thinking about you that far, right? It's just irrational, all right? So the last point that I have here, how do we stop freezing in conversations? Reach out for help. It's my last bullet point. Just reach out for help. Yeah, you could take the long route, which is you watch an infield, you try to emulate it, you watch another infield, you try to correct it. Yeah, you try to get your own audio clips, but the problem is you're not going to know what to look out for and what to correct. So you could try the roundabout way, or you could just skip the line. You could just be like Ian. You could just be like Rodney. You could just be like my clients and say, actually, I'm just going to lower my ego. I'm going to accept that there are other people in this world that can guide me through this delicate area of my life. And rather than trying to turn up my nose and say, I'm too good for this, I'll just stick to Bumble. Rather than doing that, you reach out for help. and you allow me to guide you through this process, because I've already changed a boatload of lives, and I'm just getting started. We're just getting started. So if you want to be the next success story, then you know where to find me. Yeah, my link is in the description below. You can click it to schedule an application call with me. And yeah, we'll see if you're a good fit. Because if you're a good fit for coaching, and we go through with this, then life will be a lot different. And if you don't believe me, just go watch my content, go watch my videos, click over to my videos tab, click on that client transformation series, and just watch the progression. Watch where Ian was, watch where he is now, right? Soon you'll have Rodney's clips as well. Thankfully, some of my clients allow me to use their footage, and so I'm always happy when that happens, so you can see more case studies. But just look at that. Look at 4-year dry streak, walking over with nothing to show for it, 600 approaches, works with me. And now, I mean, if you saw our most recent joint live stream together, then you'll know the guy is just having an absolute blast with the skill set. Same guy, same genetics, same muscle mass that he had before he worked with me, yet completely different results, thus a completely different life. Yeah, the guy just, he walks differently now. He walks different. He talks different. He acts different. He is different. Yeah, once you get this area sorted, you are different. You're no longer ashamed of going on these long dry streaks. You're no longer worried about your friends finding out that you don't know how to get a date. You're no longer scared to show up to Thanksgiving dinner with your relatives going, "So, Jeremy, it's been a while. Where's the girlfriend at? Huh? You got any girls? You got any dates you're going on? Any potential wives?" You're no longer scared to show up because you have this area sorted. So yeah, I'd highly recommend you reach out. Best case scenario, we're a good fit, and I teach you this skill set directly, and your life changes forever. Worst case scenario, we're not a good fit, but I'll answer your questions and I'll point you in the right direction, because I just believe in the mission, boys. Hopefully some of the people viewing are some of the OGs who've been watching me from the beginning, because the mission hasn't changed. Ever since I started the channel, the mission hasn't changed. Yeah, it's always been to pull as many guys up here as possible. Pull University, baby. There's that double meaning. Yeah, you might think it's how to pull girls, but to me, Pull University means how to pull as many guys up to this level, to this dating life, to this lifestyle as I possibly can. I want to see as many guys as I possibly can. That sounds fruity. Imagine I just stopped there. Hey, don't clip that. I already know someone's going to clip that, use it against me. I want to pull as many guys as possible. No, but really though, like I want to bring as many guys up here as possible, because man, I mean, I guess now that we're done with the point of the stream, yeah, let's just have a chat, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like. I've gone through those dark phases in life where months are going by. I'm getting invited to parties. I remember I was living with a roommate a couple of years back, and we're going to these college parties, and we're going out to bars and venues, and I would do my best to hit on girls, and I just didn't know what I was doing. And I'd be going months at a time. He had a girlfriend. I remember my roommate, he got a girlfriend with one of the girls he was at school with. And so she'd be coming around the house, and I'd be in my room playing Black Ops and taking bong rips. And I'd be thinking, God, what does he have that I don't? Yeah, I had a better paying job. We looked about the same. He was a little stronger than me, right? And I kept comparing myself to guys that were having more success with girls, until I finally realized that it's not about all these external metrics. The thing that moves the needle the most is belief in oneself. Yeah, believing that you're worthy of the girls that you're attracted to, and believing in yourself enough to just walk over and give yourself a chance. That's what I spew on my channel, is just giving yourself a chance. Because my life could have gone completely differently if I made different decisions. Right? If I was 23, I came across Cold Approach and I just wrote it off, and I thought, yeah, it looks all right, but it's probably too hard. Yeah, it looks all right, but I got to get rejected. I don't want to do that. Like if I took that path, I'd probably still be living in a similar reality. It's like, think about it. The lives that I've changed so far, the guys in the group, the guys I've coached, like, who knows where they would have been, right? So it's all about the mission. It's all about using this skill set to change the fucking world. Because I know it's possible. Yeah, there are enough guys that are living in enough loneliness right now. And I just know that if I keep making content, eventually they're gonna book in a call and spur into action. Because it really is worth it, boys. Like I've literally gotten to a point where I'm not even worried about dates, you know? It's like that's another benefit you get is you go on enough dates, you have fun, and then you realize, wow, I've conquered it. And I've conquered this fear. I've conquered this scarcity. I've conquered this feeling of illegitimacy and loneliness now. And I know how to do it again if I want to. And it stops being such a mountain. And you can get there too, boys. Seriously. So, anyways, we'll wrap up there. As always, link is in the description if you would like my help directly. If you want me next to you. If you're curious how this works, by the way, if you're a newer viewer, if you are a newer viewer, that rhymes, and you're curious what I mean by coaching, what I do with my guys is we meet up in a city. Usually they're shit scared when they meet me. I mic you up like a federal agent. That way I can listen into everything that you're saying and everything that the girl is saying. I teach you exactly the technique that I use when you watch my videos. And then I unleash you. And I say, all right, now go approach her. All right, how about her? Go approach her. Did you like her? Go approach her. And through doing this, what's happening is, one, you're getting over your fear of doing it because you have somebody next to you that's extremely proficient at not only getting the date, but teaching you how to get the date. So you're breaking through that fear of doing it. That's the first thing. But the second thing is you're getting better at it because you're getting immediate feedback from, once again, somebody who's extremely proficient and knows what to do and knows how to teach it. So rather than trying to figure it out, taking the long route, instead you just skip the line. Instead, you just have Steph Curry. I keep using that example. You have Steph Curry teaching you how to shoot instead of watching videos of him on YouTube and then trying to pick up the basketball and do it yourself. You got him right next to you. Go, no. Elbow like this, couple degrees that way, flick the wrist like this, follow through on your shot, right? It's like, that's what I'm doing for you when we're actually working together in person. And if you're curious, that's how I can most help you, right? It's like this content, it can certainly be helpful. Don't get me wrong. I have enough comments from guys saying that they've gotten over their fear by watching me, by saying that they've went in for their sessions and their approaches, or they've gotten back into cold approach, or they've found success and gotten dates through watching my content. And that's great and all, but I just know the vast majority of guys, they're still kind of living in the shadows, and they want to make a proper change, but they're just too scared to. So yeah, I'd just recommend that you reach out and give yourself a chance here, because life is fun on this side. All right, boys, onwards and upwards. I hope you enjoyed. Talk soon. Going for